The homily this weekend is really going to focus on our celebration. But before I tell you about what we're celebrating today, I want to take you back in time and see where we have come as a parish. In 1948, the Catholic families in Windsor became a mission of Our Lady Peace Parish in Greeley, and masses were held in homes through the 50s and the 60s. In 1971, 30 families here in Windsor held Mass in the room above the Camelot Cleaners. We used to have Mass above the laundromat. In 1972, Father Tom McCormick, the first acting pastor, came to this parish. And in 1973, the name Our Lady of the Valley was voted on and approved by our community. In 1974, 75 families then moved from the laundromat into a storefront church on Main Street. In 1979, 120 families had outgrown the storefront and moved to the little famous church on Walnut Street. I am told that as we were buying the church on Walnut Street, that the person asked the realtor, "Do you know how many Catholics are in Windsor?" His response was, "I don't know, I don't care, and I hope none come." "We don't want any more Catholics in this town," was his response. That was 120 families at that time. For 22 years, we were there. Then in 1997, Father Steve Adams began a capital campaign to start building a church on a ground that was dedicated at 7th Street and Eastman Park. And that was to begin the building that is over here, which we now know as our hall. That was the church and the offices. And there was 200 families at the time when they were trying to get that going. In 1999 was the groundbreaking ceremony for the property here. And on December 3rd, 2000, with 250 families, on the first Sunday of Advent, the first Mass was said in that building. That was the church here on this property. In January 2002, 370 families. Now Father James Spahn came, and he was the pastor in 2002. With 370 families. In late 2004, with 640 families, this community paid off that church and that hall and was debt-free. And in that time, in 2004, already the church was beginning to be too full. And there was so many more Catholics in the area that wanted to worship the Lord. And so they said, we need to expand. And so they came up with all kinds of things, and they surveyed everybody in the community, and they were asking all around, and they talked with the councils and everything, and they said, we need to come up with this multi-phase plan to making this a beautiful Catholic campus. And so they came up with phase 1, which was to build a beautiful church. They said phase 2 would be classrooms and meeting spaces, and phase 3 would eventually be a larger hall and a multi-purpose area. But when they went to the people and went to the archdiocese, or they went to the companies that said, well, do you think we could do this? Could we raise enough money? They all said, absolutely not. There's no way it can be done. Twice going to the archdiocese and to the archbishop, they said, look, you just can't do it. It's not possible. You're just too little. But pressing on and going forth more and more and more, in March 2008, with 800 families, they began a capital campaign for phase 1, which was this church, which would eventually cost right at about $5 million. In 2010, ground broke. In September 2011 was the dedication of this church, and that's the first time that this candle was lit at the dedication of this church. In 2012, now there had been a lot of money raised through the capital campaign, but we still needed to borrow a large sum of money from the Archdiocese. So in March 2012, we obtained a 10-year loan from the Archdiocese of Denver for $1,019,000. This week, with 1,200 families in our parish, less than 3 years after we took out that loan, on Monday of this past week, which was the presentation of our Lord in the temple, February 2nd of 2015, we completely paid off this church.